set that aside because we'll just burn that video at this point.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to a Thursday Collection Connection, where we're playing that game. It's just an excuse to talk about records. Play the game with my brother, Plastic Eric from the Plastic Soundwave Cult channel. We're brothers, we live on opposite coasts, and one of the ways that we keep in touch, since we talk music a lot when we talk, is by doing this game, where I find something in my collection and he has to find some sort of connection to something in his collection, and then it goes back to me and back to him, and just in a big old circle that we've been doing for more than 200 albums now. Someday we'll run out, but so far, not yet. In Eric's last video, he talked about Moongoose, La Nuit. The album itself took me by surprise a little bit. He had played Moongoose before, and somewhere along the lines I conflated it with some of the other music that he's played for me that is more sort of minimalist and chill. And I guess I just didn't remember directly the experience of listening to the first Moongoose record. Once I thought about it a little more, I think I remember like the last song was maybe a long shaggy dog story. But yeah, I was taken aback by sort of how rockin' it was initially. The fact that, to steal a line from Eric, the fact that it's not just about the music, a song like the closer, which I really enjoyed, called Great Halls of Broken Tools, and at some point kind of had some sort of pew 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 sort of space noises in it. And if the song had been called, I don't know, Hyperdrive to Rigel 7 or something like that, probably would have bugged the crap out of me. This brushes up against prog pretty lasciviously, but it is saved from sort of the preciousness, the pomp that turns me off of real prog music, by not pretending to present sort of outrageous scenarios for their instrumentals, by giving them titles that sound otherworldly or whatever. I'm looking at you, yes. And just made it a lot easier to digest, honestly. But I had a few ideas sort of immediately for a connection. The first and maybe most obvious stare you in the face one is the fact that the album is called La Nuit, the night in French. And so an album with a French title or otherwise non-English title. I noticed on the spreadsheet that we keep, so we know which albums we've done and which ones we haven't, that the album is from 2022, and that is the first time we've presented, either of us, a 2022 album on the Collection Connection, which means that, save for this year, 2023, which is kind of just getting going, really, we have had an album from every year from 1966, at least one album from 1966 through to 2022, with the exceptions of 2012. Nobody's put up a 2012 album yet. And more surprisingly, from as 80s centric as it sometimes feels like it is, 1983. Nobody's done an album from 1983 to date on the Collection Connection. So I thought about pulling out an album from one of those years, but since it didn't fully close the gap, wasn't like, and here's the last year that we're filling in, I didn't do that. Instead, I decided to indulge in my love of wordplay a little bit. Now, Moongoose has an animal in the band name, Goose, it's right there. But it is also one letter away. If you take away one of the first double O's, then you've got Mongoose. So the band name is one letter away from being an animal. I was able to come up with another act that is one letter away from being the name of an animal. So Moongoose has an extra O to Mongoose, and if you add an N to my choice, you will get Falcon. And so I am talking, of course, about Falco and the album Falco 3. It came out across mainland Europe, I think in 1985, and not here until 1986. This was a deliberate attempt to try to break into the English-speaking market a little more. The album liberally uses the German version of Spanglish, but kind of a blend of German and English. Most of the song titles are in English. A lot of the choruses are in English, where the more rapped lyrics, verses are in German with English words you can kind of pick out while you're listening. And I think that was done, I believe, as a conscious effort, specifically because he had a hit in Germany, in Austria, with Der Kommissar in 1983 or something like that. But it didn't really play outside of German-speaking markets. And the band, After the Fire, changed the lyrics basically to English lyrics, and they had a great big hit with it, with Der Kommissar. So if you're familiar with the song, it's probably their version that you know the best, even though it was a cover. And so he decided to incorporate more English into his lyrics, and lo and behold, Rock Me Amadeus became a huge smash hit. Another one that feels like a novelty, was definitely treated like a novelty. A primarily foreign language artist is always sort of treated as a one-off property here in the US, or at least they were for a very long time. But Falco is a weird dude. He's hard to describe. It is really, really impossible for me to discern how seriously he took himself. It appeared at first glance on the surface as if he took himself very seriously, and he had this self-perception of this suaveness that just oozed from him. And it's really hard to tell if it's just because European pop music always kind of sounded like Eurovision Song Contest entries. They were never as good at emulating American rock music as the British were, specifically. At sort of digesting that music and spinning it into their own thing and still being able to like truly rock. They always sounded a little bit cheeseball. And I can't tell if Falco was self-aware of the cheeseball factor, or if he thought he was that smooth and suave. It's mystifying almost. And I mean, he was god-awful at lip-syncing his own lyrics in videos, and it seemed possibly because they had $35 to make the video in the first place, but in part it was because he was more concerned about exuding this suave image than really replicating the song. He probably couldn't have done the original lyrics, in the studio, projecting that kind of suave attitude. And so it made it sort of impossible to do it in the videos, just because there was sort of such a disconnect between the actual delivery and what he was trying to project in the videos. But even the video for Der Kommissar is kind of ridiculous. And it's just sort of him sort of green screen projected in front of some police cars like he's running, but he doesn't really look like he's running. It looks like he's running in place and waving his arms, which is what he's doing. And the dance moves aren't as cool as he seems to think, but maybe he doesn't think that at all. Maybe he's totally in on the joke. It's really, truly, singularly impossible for me to tell how seriously he took himself. It's sort of like he saw the cover of Brian Ferry's album, In Your Mind, big sunglasses, slick back hair, and was like, yes, that is what I want to be. So he's sort of like Brian Ferry as a delusional dork. And it's odd. And yet, I dig the record. I never got anything other than Falco 3. Not even his first album with Der Kommissar on it. So I still sort of treated it, I guess, as novelty. But in the great tradition of, saying, oh, but the single, that's not even the best song on there. That may be the worst song on there. I don't think, I like Rock Me Amadeus. I don't think it's the worst song on the album. But it's not the most of anything. It's Cheeseball, but Tango the Night Away on here is much more Cheeseball. And I love it. That's one of my favorite choruses in the world to sing. I love singing the chorus of Tango the Night Away. I've seen the other semi-hit from this album, Vienna Calling, at least in the US, described as forgotten. It wasn't forgotten by me. I think Vienna Calling is a better song than Rock Me Amadeus. But again, I like Rock Me Amadeus. And I have so few regrets about buying this. This album has a different cover than the one I'm used to. The one I'm used to is the one I showed in the graphic, which is red. And again, the signature it looks like what I would assume would be Falco's signature. And it is a terrible signature. The A kind of looks like a star a little bit. And it's like somebody who wants to have a cool signature, their idea, like an 11-year-old trying to work on their signature for the first time. So it's kind of bad. I don't know. It's for something that I enjoy, unironically. I'm aware of the cheese factor of it. And I feel like I'm more aware of the cheese factor and the silliness of it than Falco is himself. But I could be completely wrong on that. It doesn't seem to me, when he's got women fawning on him in videos, it seems to me like he feels like that's what he projects. And maybe in German pop circles or Austrian, I say German, most of the chart information. He is Austrian. They speak German in Austria. And most of the chart sort of information that I got was more based in Germany than it was in Austria. So I'm not conflating the two. I'm not confusing the two. I just was reading more about Germany than Austria as far as success goes when I was researching it. Now, a friend of mine who sometimes comments on the videos, and maybe he'll comment on this one, informed me that a third single, Genie, was very controversial in Europe, was banned, and went to #1 in Germany in spite of being banned, and seemed to be a song from the point of view of a stalker, and was maybe thought by some to sort of be sympathetic of the stalker. The guy who told me about it, who's Ned, if he shows up in the comments, and with all of the lyrics being in German, save for the chorus, and not understanding German, he had no idea kind of what the song was about and learning what it was. I'm not sure if he came away from it still liking it, sort of, or sort of, self-canceling it in his mind, saying no. Falco defended it, and he even made a sequel to the song that came out on his next album, Genie Part 2. I don't think I've ever heard it, but I know I've gone way over time here, so I will wrap it up. But leave it with, I like Falco 3. I like the album. Enough so that this version is a 25th anniversary version. So I bought it more than once. I bought a replacement. I bought a remaster because that was one of my few complaints about the album. It lags a little bit in the second half. There's a Bob Dylan cover. It's all over now, Baby Blue, bizarrely. And I got to mention Munich Girls, which is another thing Eric might be able to pull a connection out of. Munich Girls is basically the Cars song off of Heartbeat City, Here She Comes, Looking for Love. But instead of saying Here She Comes, for the most part, they say Munich Girls. But it's the same music, just a bunch of different lyrics. Maybe he got inspired by After the Fire, rewriting lyrics to his song. He said, hey, I can rewrite some lyrics myself. And now I can't remember in the moment if it's Here She Comes or if it's Looking for Love, what the name of the actual car song is, but here, retitled Munich Girls. I think it's a good record. It's very much of its time, but that their time was my time, so I have no problem with repping 80s records. And so yeah, Falco 3, straight out of Austria, 1985, I think. I will throw that over to Eric, and he will make a connection to an album in his music collection, and he will present that album next Monday on the Plastic Sound Wave Cult. So that's all I have. I said my piece, and I thank you for watching. Bye-bye.